Hello YouTube, today I'm going to be showing you my custom PC build, so let's take a look at this. I tried to do a PC build from around 2007 that would be around a fairly high-end rig. Now I'm not talking like ridiculously high-end, because I know some of those parts nowadays still cost quite a pretty penny, but this is what I could find. For the case, I'm using the Raidmax Narwhal ATX case. I chose this case since it's big. It's a spare case I have lying around, and I did a previous build with the same motherboard and this case, and it goes around pretty nicely. If you want to see my video on this case, product links, I'll link all that stuff below. For the motherboard, I chose the Asus P5Q Deluxe. This is a pretty high-end board. It's got a decent amount of features, and overall for my rig, I think this would be a pretty sweet motherboard. And on that, I just got the Intel stock cooler, which is spray painted gray.
For the CPU, we got the Intel Q6600 Slacker. So that's just the new version of the Q6600, and at the time it was a fairly high-end CPU. It wasn't nearly as high-end as the Q9650 or whatever, but it was pretty decent. For the graphics card, I went with the 9800 GT, which would have been considered around a high-end card at that time. And it's from the Asus vendor, and yeah, it's pretty decent.
As for the RAM goes, I have 2 sticks of 1 GB. It's just Kingston 66.7 MHz RAM. This is just the low profile one. I have 2 of these, and then this is some Transcend 66.7 MHz RAM, 2 GB. So in total, I'll have 6. So right here, I've got my power supply, which is a Seasonic 600 watt. I'm not quite sure of the exact model number, but I've also got a couple fans to set up for the case.
For storage, I'm just going with a 1 TB Western Digital Blue 5400 RPM laptop hard drive.
As far as pricing goes for this PC, the motherboard and the CPU and 2 gigs of RAM, that I got from a trade. That would have been around $150, $125 if I were to buy it without trading. The RAM, I got 4 GB, 2 sticks of RAM, and a 9800 GT graphics card for both for $60. So, and I got the power supply for $30. So overall, I put quite a bit of money into this PC. So let's take a look and get into the build.
So there you got a setup of just the rig being set up. So let's just go ahead and run a quick couple bench. For the monitor, I'm just going with a pretty basic 900p monitor. The reason I chose 900p was because around 2008 era, 1080p was not really a thing. It was still fairly high-end and expensive, so that's why I chose 900p. It would have been a lot more affordable and more mainstream. So you can tell by those benchmarks that it actually does surprisingly well. The graphics card, for being that old, it actually does hold up quite a fight still. The only downside I would really consider to it is it only supports up to DirectX 10. But comparing it to stuff like the GT 630, it does much better than that graphics card. So overall, a PC like this can still hold its ground this day. You're not going to be playing any new games, but if you like playing older games, bit of a lower resolution, this might be the way to go. That's all for now. Anything I might have mentioned, we'll try and link it in the description. That's all for now, and see you guys later.